Okay, so hey guys, and welcome back to another Axel 72 video, and in today's video I'm going to be giving my prediction for the Christian Mbilli versus Maciej Sulecki fight. And so if you are new around here and you haven't yet subscribed, please do so, like video if you do indeed like video, and feel free to join the Patreon. I can't agree that my pronunciation of any fighters' names is going to get any better, but for just £5 you can request any kind of custom combat sports related video. There is one out there which has been requested already, which is a prediction for the Joet Gonzalez versus Brandon Figueroa fight. If you want to watch that video or request your own, feel free to join, much appreciated. And so let's get straight into this fight. So Christian Mbilli, he's making a return off his win against Derevyanchenko. He has been put in line for fighting Canelo, and I mean, realistically, it's a tough one because I don't think many people would be that keen in seeing Canelo fight another contender. You know, obviously he's got everything going on with Crawford at the moment, so it's just not realistically going to happen. Even if he goes and wins both fights against Crawford, I just don't necessarily see that he's going to want to, I suppose, jump down to an extent in the way of a name to then go on to fight somebody like an Mbilli, who is a very good fighter and has got a decent resume on him and has, gotten himself in a worthy position, but he's just, like I say, not as big of a name, not as big of a draw, and again, like I say, he might be waiting around quite a while unless he fancies moving up in weight to actually get a shot at a world title, which is a bit unfortunate for him because obviously he's doing all the right things, he's in the right spot, but I suppose at the same time, you kind of look at his career and you kind of have to say that it is getting held up realistically just because nobody wants to fight him. And you look at the names in the division of possible opponents for him, you could say a Pacheco, a Belanga, a Shiraz, a Charlo, a Martinez is being talked about. I'll touch upon that in a minute, but a Lele Saggio was meant to happen, and that fell through due to financial issues, which was a bit of a strange one. I don't know if that is Lele Saggio's team wanting to find an easier route to get a world title, if they're just going to wait around with a good record until they get forced into a Riyadh season fight. I'm not entirely sure, but they fell out due to money issues, so that fight didn't end up happening, and that would have been, at least on paper, two highly ranked undefeated French fighters. I suppose that could have been made into some sort of narrative there, but again, like I say, that didn't happen. And then, like I say, other than that, I mean, there is all these names, but just none of them are really kind of willing to fight him. But like I say, His Excellency is seemingly now getting involved, and seemingly it's going to be Martinez who will probably go on to fight Mbilli next on a show that I think is being held around November time. So again, like I say, this is all just speculation so far, but it's nice to see His Excellency getting involved. In general, of course, that's what we want His Excellency to be doing. We want him to be giving these opportunities to fighters who are in well-deserved good positions but aren't getting the matchups in which they do deserve. So I mean, somebody like Mbilli, like I say, he's not got a bad resume. He's fought some good names. A Gungora is a good name, and a Coulson and a Murdoch and a Derevyanchenko. They're all kind of gatekeepers, but all somewhat respectable victories in themselves. And again, like I say, he's just kind of in the who needs him club. And I mean, perhaps if he wins this WBC interim belt, then that will change. But either way, he's still really high ranked. And I mean, he might already have this interim belt, to be fair. He is in a really good position anyway, and still nobody realistically wants to fight him. So instead, in steps Sulecki, and Sulecki, of course, people are probably going to know him from the losses in which he's had in his career, but he is coming off arguably one of the best wins in his career in a TKO win versus Akhmedov for the WBC silver title. And so that's a good win to be coming off, to at least be watching him fighting. So he'll be coming in with probably maybe the biggest amounts of confidence in which he's had in his career, because like I say, he is coming off a win in which, he was coming off a loss before that fight, and that was against Pacheco, and that was the first time he'd been stopped, and you probably would have thought his confidence was low. But then he started the first round against Akhmedov and scored two knockdowns pretty much simultaneously, pretty much the first jab he threw. Well, I mean, he almost got knocked down, and then he did knock down Akhmedov with like a kind of almost double knockdown type of punch. But then he ended up getting another knockdown, and from then he was pretty much in control for the majority of the fight until eventually he managed to get the stoppage, and that was out in Kazakhstan, I believe. And so again, that was credit to him. He's always been willing to go and take these opportunities, take these big fights, and this has paid off. And this is what gotten himself into a position where he is now fighting for an interim world title fight. Again, would you say that perhaps he's deserving of that? I mean, the WBC silver title does mean quite a bit. Yes, it's just a silver title, but the way that it seems to be put on somewhat of a pedestal by the WBC does, like I say, seemingly make the title worth a bit more, because, I mean, the whole WBC Grand Prix format, with the winner of it, they're having him kind of set up to then fight straight away for a WBC silver title to then put himself in line to perhaps get a world title shot. And so, like I said, this silver title is quite an important one. So I feel like they weren't expecting somebody like a Sulecki to be able to pick it up. But obviously, I mean, again, to touch upon some of the names in which Sulecki's fought, Pacheco, Andrade, and Jacobs, I mean, they're three very big names in which are guys who have fought at the highest level, or at least Pacheco is getting up to that highest level. And Andrade, I mean, he had his one loss versus Benavidez, but he still was an undefeated fighter at that point. And Jacobs, I mean, he had fights against Canelo and things like that, so he is a top name as well. And so, again, like I say, perhaps there is still better options for an interim belt, but nonetheless, we've touched upon this now. There just seemingly isn't anybody at the moment who wants to go on to fight Mbilli. But to speak about Mbilli as a fighter, skill-wise, he's quite a bullish and strong come forwards fighter who definitely is a big presence. I mean, you look at the kind of physical attributes of him, he does have that big frame, and again, like I say, a big presence who's going to be in your face for the majority of the fight. He is able to push you back, again, kind of just imposing himself, and he does kind of throw with everything, with power, and you can see that in his punches. Yes, perhaps he's not always getting the stoppages, but again, I mean, he has been in with some tough guys. I mean, he fought Derevyanchenko, and nobody realistically stops Derevyanchenko, and he went toe-to-toe with him, and he was really just putting in a lot of big shots, and he was causing a lot of damage onto Derevyanchenko. And in general, he was getting better of the exchanges in which they were both having. And even when Derevyanchenko was trying to go toe-to-toe, you could see that there was a skill difference and a power difference between the two of them. He shortens up his shots really nicely. I think that's perhaps one of his best attributes, and it's definitely something in which you have to be able to do if you are going to be an in-close, in-your-face type of fighter, and he does that well. In Mbilli, he digs to the body well. I mean, he's been able to deliver some quite big knockouts when he's been going to the body. I mean, he showed the levels against Mark Heffron when he fought him, and I think Heffron came on short notice. I might have been wrong, but he dug to the body very nicely and got him out of there very quickly. He punches all over typically, though, and in general, I think he has got a good shot variation, which I think is improving. And in that Derevyanchenko fight, I think he did showcase a few more shots in his arsenal, even though still limited with a kind of setup shot like a jab, or even just a mid-range shot, like I say, to kind of get his way in. I suppose, to speak upon negatives about him, his footwork in close is still a bit wide, and in general, he is going to be stood quite kind of straight in front of you, and he's going to be quite a big target for you to land on. He dips his head down quite a lot. He's got quite tense movements. I don't think a lot of his work is that fluid, and that's what can make his balance a little bit off at times. Against opponents who work angles well in close, he can definitely get caught up with shots. The success in which Derevyanchenko was having often came through starting off with an uppercut, and then he was able to land that quite cleanly, and then able to get a few more shots off, because that was kind of stunning. And Mbilli, it seems like he does get stunned if he gets caught with a good shot, and then he doesn't really know what to do that much, and he doesn't kind of hold on necessarily well if he needs to. He, like I say, can get drawn as just standing and trading, which again hasn't realistically been a problem so far in his career, and I don't necessarily know if Sulecki is going to give him a problem if he is standing and trading. But if he fights somebody like a Canelo, then it might be a bit of a different problem, because Canelo is so good at fighting in your face. He, like I say, isn't always aware after finishing his combinations, and that's when he can get caught with counters. He can be a bit wild at times in his own punches, like I say, because he's throwing so much with power, and he's turning so much into his shots, and he's putting so much into his shots, it can come across as a bit wild. And again, I don't think he's making sometimes the necessary adjustments needed. Sulecki as a fighter, I mean, the positives in which I see in his game mainly comes from a really strong jab in which he has, and he pretty much was able to have a lot of success against Akhmedov with that jab. And I mean, until we got the stoppage, the rounds kind of prior, I mean, especially the early rounds, I mean, he dropped Akhmedov with a jab, like I say, pretty much won the first shots, but then he carried on going with the jab, and he was consistently pairing it up. He was trying to work off it. It doesn't always work the best when he was trying to throw off it, but the actual jab itself was very good, and I do believe that Mbilli can be caught with a jab. Will it be a strong enough jab? Like I say, it's strong, but will it be enough to be able to deter Mbilli? I'm not entirely sure, but again, like I said, I would definitely say that his best punch. I think he counters okay, so he might be able to land a couple of counters on Mbilli. He definitely catches you when you're comfortable, which is going to be something in which perhaps might be interesting to see if he can do that on Mbilli. He sets quite a solid pace, so I mean, Mbilli sets quite a high pace, and I think he's probably going to have to fight to Mbili's pace, which is, you know, faster than what he normally sets, but he can normally deal with quite a fast pace. He's quite a composed fighter. Again, that's probably just due to the experience of the guys in which he's been in against. I think he has got a good chin. I mean, again, you look at the knockout in which he suffered, it was a very nice body shot in which Pacheco landed, and it was pretty much the only shot in which Pacheco threw to the body. Again, you know, touching upon Mbili's finishing abilities when he does throw to the body, it's not necessarily a good thing, but in general, I think his chin is good. He's got solid fundamentals, and realistically, that's what he utilizes to be able to try and outbox you. And maybe again with these fundamentals, he might be able to have bits of success against Mbilli. Negatives about him, again, like I said, I think he's been hurt to the body, and that perhaps is a bit of a weak spot for him now, and I don't think he pins you down that well. I think his accuracy is a bit off at times, especially if he is on fighting on the front foot. I don't think he's going to get too many options to actually be able to fight on the front foot, but if he is, I don't think he makes the most of you when you're hurt, and I don't think he can fight on the front foot that well because, again, his accuracy isn't the best. He has quite wide hooks. I don't think he cuts off the ring very well. He's got quite slow speed of hand. He has quite a high guard, but again, I don't think it's that strong of a guard. He will let himself be second again, which is, I don't think, what you want to be doing against somebody like an Mbilli. And again, the strength of his is just so much lesser than that of Mbili's. And to give a winner for this fight, I think that Christian Mbilli is going to be able to win via TKO in round 5. I could see him getting onto the back foot, getting chopped down to the body, and then just him not being able to last in there with the likes of an Mbilli, which would be no surprise, to be completely honest. And perhaps that could be the end of Sulecki's career. Maybe not. I mean, again, like I say, he's fought back from being in positions where perhaps he's been down and out before. So maybe he might be able to get himself into a good position again. But again, I mean, there's not too many Polish fighters who are fighting at a high level. So he's definitely represented his country well. But yeah, like I say, I still believe that Mbilli is going to be able to win. Then again, who he goes on to fight next? I mean, realistically, if that Martinez fight does happen next, I think that's a good fight, and that definitely should happen. And I think that is two top contenders who are both entertaining fighters, and again, I think that could make into a really good fight. If not, I mean, of course, we'd like to see the Lele Saggio fight because Saggio really hasn't been in with anybody so far of too much note, and so I really want to see if he is, you know, if it's kind of fraud check him to an extent, just to be able to see if he is actually any good or if he's just a bit of a French hype job where, again, they're trying to protect his record. You know, hopefully that could happen because, I mean, it'd be a French on French kind of matchup. Or a fight which I think would be really entertaining would be Melikuziev versus Mbilli. That hasn't been talked about too much, and Melikuziev is coming off a very exciting victory against Fulgham, which was like I say, a very entertaining fight. Go watch it if you haven't already. And again, like I say, I mean, he could get himself in a position to face Mbilli. He is ranked with the WBC, so perhaps that could happen. We will have to, of course, wait and see. But yeah, that is it for today's video. Hope you did enjoy. Like the video if you did, like the video, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching.